Are you too busy? Too stressed out? Unhealthy? Then this is the place for you. Welcome to Balanced Living for Busy Professionals, where we help you create wellness and balance with a holistic approach that will work for you, even with the busiest of schedules, so you can live the life you want. And now, here's your host, Diane Randall.
Hello, I'm your host, Diane Randall. Welcome to the podcast that teaches you inner tools and strategies to help you break free of any habits or patterns that may be keeping you stuck in place. As you know, my intention is to give you tools and resources to help you create the life that you want. Today's episode of Balanced Living for Busy Professionals is about style, confidence, and purpose. Learn what it means to be seen for who you are and not just for the outfit or the label. I am so excited about my guest today because she has a unique approach to personal style. I love how she works with men and women to go inside, take a deep dive, and learn who they are so that that's reflected on the outside. I'm so excited to introduce you to my guest, Kathleen Audet. Welcome, Kathleen.
Thank you, Diane. I'm glad to be here with you.
I am so happy that you're here again to talk to us about style and clothes. But what I love your unique approach to just take a deeper dive inside and not just talk about what we're wearing. So I really love that you're here today.
Thanks. Yeah, I definitely approach things from a unique perspective, and I came by that not of my own accord, but still I prefer to work from the mindset first and then get into the clothes. So that's how I do it.
Well, talk to us more about that. I read where you had a health issue, you had a stroke, and it helped you to see clothes in a different way. Tell us about that.
Okay, yeah. For a lot of years, could get dressed easily. I'm thin. I had not a lot of problems finding clothes that fit well. And I love the fashion industry, love clothes. And then after the birth of my daughter, I couldn't do that anymore. I had a stroke and my body was different. My mind was different. I was pretty depressed. And I couldn't make anything fit or look good. And I knew that I needed to change the way I was working with women instead of being just all about fashion for the sake of fashion. I really wanted to help women, myself first, use their clothing as a resource to help them feel better and feel good, feel empowered, feel strong. And so I took probably a couple years to just change the way I worked and change how I was dressing and how I thought about it. And now when I work with women, it's from a mindset place of, what's going on the inside with you, because no matter what is going on in there, it's reflected on the outside. So we're going to see that. And as women, I think we want to be seen authentically and accurately. And it's really important to dress, having our nonverbal cues say to other people, this is who I am, and to garner warmth and trust, and to be able to say, I'm not coming to you as someone different than who I am. And after the stroke, I really just didn't know who I was. I didn't know how to dress. My body was sort of angled in a funny way. I had a cane, and it really just rocked my world. And I knew that I wanted to take that feeling and transform it into something positive. And I knew it needed to include clothing.
Wow. So how do you help busy men and women become empowered? What does that look like?
I am all about the busy woman and man. I do work with both men and women. I would say, Diane, that the biggest thing I do is what I don't do anymore. I don't just step into your closet and help you style your clothing. If you're going to work with me, it's a process where we work with your schedule. So it's entirely up to you, but it's a minimum of 3 months. And we're starting with some words that we come up with that resonate with you at a deep level. I'm going to show you how those translate into the design elements in the clothing using a lot of different tools that I have online. One of them is Pinterest, but I have a virtual closet, and I have a lot of other ways that we look at your clothing. And then I do a lot with color and a lot with fit, because that was such a hard thing for me, and I find it's a very hard thing for both men and women. And then after that, we take a look at your closet. So we don't even get to styling until, 4 appointments in. And that way, once we're in there, we have a really good idea of what we're looking at and why things work and why things don't work, and why you bought something and that you don't need or use. And so we can, carefully get rid of that and make room in your closet for just the things you want to wear and feel great about and feel great in. And so your mornings are much quicker. There's a lot less decision fatigue. You're getting dressed with purpose. You have figured out, this works and I'm wearing this, and this is the nonverbal message I need to send today. And so it's a process of going from the inside out. And I really like it a whole lot better. And I find that my clients are a lot happier. They don't need me as much, which is great. Although I have clients on retainer for years, but I really am in the empowering business of, let me help you figure this out for you, what it looks like, because it's never the same for any two people. So yeah, that's kind of how I work. I don't know if that gives you a good idea, but yeah.
It does. While you were talking, it reminded me of when I was young in my early 20s, and my idea of confidence and empowerment was to go and spend all my money on a designer outfit that I couldn't afford, which was strictly in my head at the time, was to get the compliments, not from the outside, not necessarily thinking that, I felt good for a minute, but I still felt that lack on the inside. So I get what you're saying.
Yeah, it's so true. I mean, really, the first impression in the morning is not on other people. It's on us. And it needs to be. We need to be looking in the mirror more than we are, and not in a self-judging way, or not in a way that says, oh, look at me, I'm so great, but just in a really authentic and real way. And that's really hard for people to do.
It's really, really hard. And that brings forth another question. I'm wondering if you spend a lot of time up front, because for men and women, and I still do this sometimes, you look in the mirror and you're like, oh my God, I'm fat. I got this going on. I got that going on. How do you get people to accept their bodies as they are in that moment and not want to be like this person or that person? Or, you know what? We need to do this when I lose 10 pounds, 15 pounds. So how do you help people get past those kind of barriers?
Yeah, that's a great question. I really do a lot of pre-work. So you're going to fill out anywhere from 15 to 20 to 25 pages of information. And we're going to go over it. We're going to talk about it. And if it doesn't come up in our style sessions, it's going to come up in the closet. It's going to come up while we're shopping or in front of a mirror when you're trying on clothes. And I really try and address men and women's top 10 challenges in the closet. And certainly I'll do this when I lose X amount of weight. Is probably number 1 or number 2, right? That's a huge barrier. And my philosophy is that you need to dress the body you have right now, because if you feel good about where you are now, it's a lot easier to lose weight and to just know what good fit looks like right where you're at. And that is something that people struggle with. And if I'm working with people and we come to a place where they see themselves in the mirror in a really accurate way, it is why I do what I do. It is phenomenal. They feel great. Sometimes they cry. Sometimes it's like, I've never seen myself looking beautiful or looking good or having things fit. It's amazing. And to get from where they were to that place, that's what you're asking me about. but it's a process, and we want it to be overnight. We want a pill. We want to read something and online and have it work, but really it's a process. And that's what I do, is take you through that process. If you're willing, you better be willing.
Willing, and to make that mindset about how we look and feel on the inside out. And that can really be a big process, like you just said. And it's awesome to get someone from feeling a certain way from a negative perspective to just embracing who they are now. That's beautiful.
Yeah. And if I work with men, a lot of times they have a little bit more trouble, with the more internal work. But I can usually say to them, listen, if you take the 3 to 6 to 9 months to work with me, you'll probably save over your lifetime a good $50,000 to $60,000, depending on how they are. You'll save so much money because we only wear about 20 to 25% of our clothes. And so you're leaving a lot of money on the table when you get dressed. And so just that process of paring down, essentializing, finding what works and what doesn't, means that you're going to have more time and you're going to have more money. And you're only going to purchase the things that are right for you, and you're going to leave a lot of other things hanging at the store.
That's true. And I'm one of those people. I'll buy things, but you're right. I wear certain outfits, and it doesn't matter what else I have in my closet. Right. So that is so true. So you talked about essentializing. Talk a little bit more about that.
It's a word that I coined, although there's a lot of books about essentializing or being more essential with your clothing and the items you have in your house. For me, I have found that over the years, if I could pare men and women down to just those pieces of clothing that they love and want to wear, and they do that, they wear them hard, they wear them out, even if they have a few pieces in there that they might not wear as much, what I found is that their creativity goes up, and they actually have more of an ability to see themselves accurately, first of all, and then second of all, they have this increased awareness about what looks good on them. And so when they do go shopping, they tend to be more free and a little bit not as fearful about what to buy. And they are a little more daring and a little more carefree. And so they become a little more creative. That's what I found in the last maybe 6 or 7 years that's happening. And I love that because I want their personal style to come out as we're working together. I want them to create like a signature style that's just theirs, that they can live with for the rest of their lives. And I think, sometimes people say that's like too narrow, but I think once you narrow down to the things that are good for you, you actually open up a whole nother world that you didn't know existed.
Wow. I love that. You piqued my interest in that because I'm the kind of person that will go in the store and literally buy everything off the mannequin if I like it. So I don't have to think about putting that outfit together.
Yeah.
So
yeah, you're not alone.
So I really love that possibility of figuring out what I want to wear based on who I am and how I want to show up. That is just awesome. I love that. And this is what I love about your work. It is so personal, so intimate. It's about you starting with that person on the inside out. And before I met you, I never heard of a stylist looking that deeply at someone. And I just love that. I think it's definitely telling why people come to you because that's who we are. We are who we are on the inside. Buying that designer outfit, like I told you, it did nothing for me in the past. All I did was spend hundreds of dollars on something that looked nice, and I did feel good in that. But at the same time, on the inside, I still felt the same way. So I see how your work is very, very important today. Thanks.
Yeah, I think it's a privilege and an honor to be able to work with men and women. It really is. I value my clients. And I think that the hard thing for us, Diane, is that, especially as women in the world today where we're more seen and more heard, we cannot not communicate. We're communicating who we are, whether we want to or not. And we just want to reflect on, is that authentic? Am I really reflecting who I am? to the world or to my family or to the, if you have to be on TV or just out in work, and just sort of closing that gap between your true essence and what your clothes say about you is a really big piece. And I would love to be able to teach it, in high school, but how you are in high school, your dress, it's different, I would love to give them a head start is what I'm saying. But in high school, they're not ready.
They're not ready. It's all about the trends and what the celebrities are wearing. So
yeah. So sometimes we have to go through that journey of figuring out that we don't know. And
it is a journey. It's always a journey to self, right? To figure out who you are. So it's being older, I guess, as you get older and you appreciate coming full circle into not only who you are, but what you wear reflects it. The people you communicate reflects who you are. It's just beautiful. The services that you use. And I'm just speaking for myself of how I feel at this point in my life. Everything comes full circle. It's almost like I have the right clothes, the right people in my life, the right hairstylists, even the right people that show up at my workshops. I've just seen my life coming full circle. And it's nice to really get a deep understanding that what you wear really, really reflects who you are. Not just, oh, that's so cute.
Yeah.
That's nice. Can you talk about the word exercise you use to empower people to translate the design elements that you help them with when they're choosing clothes?
Sure. I don't have all the words in front of me, but when we do the exercise, part of it is online and then part of it is with me in person or over Skype or a Zoom call. And I have around 400 words that we go through, and we choose just 4 or 5 that resonate with you at a deep level. So we're really paring down to who you are, and I'm trying to find 4 different aspects of you that we can combine to then translate into the design elements in the clothing. So in a little while, I'm going to go see a new client. She filled out some of her words online. She actually pared down to 20. And from there, we'll pare down to another 4 or 5. And some of the words are like engaging, genuine, honest, centered, ethereal. Let me look at some of these words. She has trustworthy in here, kind, joyful. And then we get to talk about how are those actually going to translate into the clothing. So would you like me to give you an example of one?
Sure.
Okay. Sometimes women come up, I have different variations on the word ethereal, which is sort of a spiritual word, but otherworldly, and sheer. That's one of the definitions. And I find that when people have maybe 4 or 5 words in that genre, and I go into their closet, we end up seeing that they love clothes that have that sheer aspect to them. The panels at the bottom of a top, or the sheerness at the top, just across the bodice. Men don't generally have this word, but women have it a lot. And so there's ways that we can translate them into different meanings, but really I'm looking at what they already own. They have to look at a lot of pictures ahead of time. So we're really just doing quite a bit of work, about 5 different aspects, and the words are just one of them, to try and hone in on what they love. And then we're going to go into their closet and see what they have. But that's one of the words that translates all the time. Almost 100% of the time, I find that the women have some sort of an affinity for that sort of sheerness where you can sort of see through the fabric. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. I like sheer myself.
Yeah, I like that. Where, sometimes they make the sleeve sheer, but the bodice is clear. Yeah. So that's just one example. And words like trustworthy and joyful translate differently. We use color a lot for things like that. It just depends. It always comes out as they're talking. I'm always listening and hearing everything they say and picking up on even stuff. I have them do some exercises about when they were young, how they dressed, how they were dressed by their moms, what they loved, what they were thinking when they were twirling in the mirror at a young age, if they were. Sometimes we don't have that luxury of saying, when we were young, we were happy, but I'm always listening to them and picking up cues and clues about who they are.
It's so funny you say that. I saw a picture of my 10-year-old self a couple of weeks ago, and I finally saw a theme. It always seemed like back in that time, you got new clothes, but not all the time, not like Easter. Easter was like big.
Yeah.
So I noticed that when I was really dressed up, I just loved it. And you could just see it in my posing, in my smile.
Yeah.
I said, I just love that. And I was telling my kids, because, they don't understand that part. I said, I love when I got new clothes, like a full outfit from head to toe.
Yeah.
I just felt so good in myself when I had that going on.
That's so cool. I love that. We would take that picture. I would make you go get that picture. and we would talk about that. What's going on there? What are you wearing? I found a lot of women, when I look back at their pictures when they were young, they were wearing dresses, and I'm working with them in the present, and they're not wearing any dresses. And they'll look back on that and they'll say, I love dresses. And so we have this conversation about, well, what happened that you don't want to wear them? And they end up, with a word like connected, which if you get that word, you want to be thinking about the fact that you may love dresses, because the connected is the top and the bottom, connected. So it makes a dress. But I would go get that picture, Diane, and we would talk about that, and it would be fun.
Yeah. And so cool. It's so true what you just said. I wore so many dresses. I wore dresses up until the 80s, but once they weren't required anymore, I, like everybody else, switched over to pants. So I'm thinking for me, a lot of it was the corporate culture at that time that drove what I wore, not necessarily loving it, but just being in line with what I was supposed to do.
Right. That's right. And you do need to think about what you're wearing to work. That's crucial. And I think what I do now is show you what the nonverbal cues of your clothing are, so that you can, if dresses are something that's part of your signature style, I can show you how to wear them right into the corporate world, and then right afterwards. There's all kinds of ways. For women, it's a little bit easier to think about changing after work or going out or whatever, because we have more choices, where with a man, if you're in a suit, you just take off the jacket or something. But there's so much with what's going on culturally, not just in our culture, but in the culture of the world you work in. So there's a lot to think about when it comes to clothes.
And what does it mean to be seen for who you are, and not just for the outfit or the label, as I spoke about earlier?
I really think that to be seen for who you are in my world, is to dress in clothes that make you feel fabulous, empowered, strong, or maybe it's professional, or maybe it's playful, or whatever it is that you need to get through your day, to go through your day, to go through your weekend. It's really just having that ability to control the nonverbal cues and match them up to who you are. And like I said, feel your way into your closet rather than always just think your way in. And for example, I always ask my clients when we first get into their closet, I say, let's try on a few things, and they'll put something on, and it's something I've asked them to put on, and I'll say, how do you feel in that? And inevitably, they'll say something like, well, I like it. It's good. It was on sale. My mother gave it to me. I have to keep it. I don't really know. And I'll ask them again, well, how do you feel in it? And I can rarely in the beginning get a feeling about what that piece of clothing is like for them. And so that's sort of that work that we all need to do that helps us realize why we're dressing the way we are, and get us past the always having to think about it from a point of view of, this was on sale, or it's okay, it just sort of works, to a different place, which is, I love this, I know how to use this, I feel great in this, I know exactly what event I need it for. That's what I'm saying.
Well, Kathleen, I really want to thank you for being here today, talking to us about style, purpose, and confidence in the clothes we wear, and how being empowered means more than just the outfit that we're wearing or the label. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Diane. It's great to be with you.
Kathleen's website and links will be here in the show notes of this episode. So be sure to get her information. And if you're curious about the work she does, she has a beautiful website with a lot of examples on Pinterest and other sites. So you can get a full example of how she does her work. And if you found one thing of value or you learned something that you did not know from this episode of Balanced Living for Busy Professionals, I want you to find 2 people in your life to share it with. Take their phones, their computers, their iPad, whatever digital devices they may have, and show them how to subscribe to this podcast. We're on all the social media distribution lists, so just tune in for more shows. And if you have questions, or I would really appreciate it if you could recommend a topic that you want to hear more about. Leave a message right here on the Balanced Living for Busy Professionals podcast page, or send me an email. Thank you guys for listening. Get my new book, Jumpstart Your Life, Find Your Motivation, and Change Your Life One Step at a Time. This book has been released on Amazon.com and other online retailers. This book was inspired by my successful and life-changing workshops that I've been leading for over 10 years. I am now bringing my tools, techniques, and accountability structures straight to you. So if you're ready to take that first step towards the life you've always wanted, get the book and discover your capacity for success and attain your goals through a series of simple, powerful techniques. I also want you to join my private Facebook community called Jumpstart Your Life. Get resources, tips, as well as ideas as you integrate the Jumpstart Your Life process. I'll see you in the community.
Thank you for listening to Balanced Living for Busy Professionals. This podcast is sponsored by DianeRandallConsults.com. If you like this show, the best way to support it is by leaving 5-star feedback on iTunes. And please, feel free to email your questions, comments, and suggestions to feedback@DianeRandallConsults.com. Until next week, namaste.